Hello, everyone. Here we are again with Titus 2, make ready. So we had done for the first three, we did body. So it was wisdom and under wisdom, we did diet, sleep, and movement. Now we're going into soul. So we're going from the body to our soul. And this will be under understanding. And we'll have three again. We'll have safety, attachment, and separation. So today we're doing safety.
And if you weren't aware, like from the previous calls, where these terms wisdom and understanding are coming from, this is very much associated with the creation gospel element of the menorah, where the 7 spirits of Adonai are listed. So the first was wisdom. Now
the second is understanding.
Yes. And as the course of this takes off throughout the year, that's how we're tying in all parts of making our little branches ready.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So,
and that comes out of Isaiah 11. So if you want to look it up, it's there.
11:9, I think.
No, that's the first one, the first two.
Is it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then you have you'll read it again in Revelation about the spirits of God, and he's only one, just like his light is only one, but when it breaks through the prism, it becomes a rainbow, and we see 7 colors. So
Oh yeah, you're right. 11:2.
11:2.
Mm-hmm.
Yay. Okay, so we're going to start, as we do always, with reading the scriptures. You know, why do we call it Titus 2? And we go all the way to Revelation. Why do we call it make ready? So do you want to start the first one or the second one?
I'll do the first. That's like tradition. I say the first.
Yes, go ahead.
Titus 2:1, it says, but as for you, proclaim the things which are fitting for sound doctrine. Older men are to be temperate, dignified, self-control, sound in faith, in love, and perseverance. Older women likewise are to be reverent in their behavior, not malicious gossips or enslaved to much wine, teaching what is good, so that they may encourage the young women to love their husbands, to love their children, to be sensible, pure workers at home, kind, being subject to their own husbands, so that the word of God will not be dishonored.
Mm-hmm. So that's the basis of our mentorship.
That's what our relationship is, and we're welcoming everybody else into it.
Yes. And then in Revelation, the part of make ready says 19:7, let us rejoice and be glad and give him glory. For the wedding day of the Lamb has come. His bride has made herself ready. So all this that we are going to be talking about and going over our parts that we are in constant renewal and constant learning.
What you do in a mentorship relationship, that's how you become this person of sound in faith and love, by doing these disciplines and things. So
yeah. And we share what we know today, what we know tomorrow, or in the weeks ahead or the years ahead may change. So we will share as we know. And of course, if we talk about anything that has to be medical, we are not doctors and we are not prescribing anything. We're just sharing with you what has worked for us and what we have learned through our careers and our learning. So with that said, we're going to start on safety. And those of you that have been in any of the parenting classes that I've done, or the healing at the well or meeting at the well that was called for at first, I've always bring that about, because if we can all have a basis of understanding of how our brain works, then it's so much easier to know what we do and why we do things, and
or not even not fall into condemnation. It's like or even panic of like when your kids react, you're like, I didn't mess them up. It's just a process of like development or whatever.
Yeah. So today we're just going to talk about that first part. So we have divided it in three.
The soul, yeah, we talked about how the soul, a lot of you might have heard this and some of you might not have, but it's made up of three parts: the mind, the will, and the emotions.
Mhm.
And you were saying how safe, this one that we're touching on is the will, like how it's connected to safety and attachment will be next.
The next month.
Yes.
Yeah, safety, because if you remember, safety is that part of survival mode that we all have, just like the animals. And it's when we do what we do in order to survive. So unfortunately, in that little bubble, nobody enters besides you. So there is no children, parents, husband, nobody. Most of us, when we get down to the nitty-gritty and safety is threatened by any means, all we can think of is, how do I survive?
Mm-hmm.
So when we see somebody being like that, you don't jump into the conclusion that they're just selfish. They only think about themselves. No, they are in fear mode. Fear mode does not use logic or reasoning. Therefore, it's not even connected. So you can, from the get-go, get that out of the way and not think, oh no, what were you thinking? Because they're not.
It eliminates offense when we start seeing people for what they could have gone through.
Mhm.
And like why they might be functioning in such a hurtful way or a harsh way or whatever the case may be. We see that soul, that part of that soul really bleeding out
Mhm.
because they inside of themselves haven't healed whatever trauma that is making them feel unsafe.
Right. And I love that you use bleed out.
Yeah.
Because if you remember, when Yeshua is at the Garden of Gethsemane,
he was so
he's
emotionally traumatized that the sweat was blood.
It was blood.
I recently saw a doctor explain that it is an actual real phenomenon.
Yeah.
When a human being, and it's very rare because, but when a human being's gone through such intense,
Crushing
emotional trauma, it's so intense that little blood vessels pop, like they burst, and it actually causes them to sweat blood. I just watched a video about this.
Yeah, it's really intense. So, and if you remember what he said, not just that he bled, sweat, he sweat blood, but he said to the Father, and we're talking, he's not
God's
just
son.
Yeah, right. He is God in the flesh.
Yes.
And he is saying, take this cup from me.
His will in that moment was fighting with what his spirit knew.
Yeah.
It's like, please take this cup from me. But
my will be done, but yours.
That's why he was the perfect example for us, because he shows us that even he had a will that fought that spirit.
Yeah, that's safety.
But
wants to stay alive.
Yes, but his spirit was stronger to receive what the Father intended.
Yeah. And
that's so comforting. Like
it is, because if you think about it, it always helps me to see that in him, because just like he is going to resurrect Lazarus, but he wept.
He was sad.
Yeah, he had all the emotions, even though he knows what's going to come next. He experiences everything like us.
He was traumatized.
Yeah, that was very, very hard. And he is saying, this flesh of mine, my safety goes first, and I don't want to die. I know I'm supposed to, but this flesh doesn't want to die.
Yeah,
And take this cup, because he knows the moment he says yes and he drinks that cup, he's going to die for his bride. So it is important to remember that there is a safety part of all of us, even if you're perfect, like he was perfect, that is going to do things that you're like, you didn't love me enough to stop. You didn't think about your child when you did this. You didn't think about, we come up with all this pain and this hurt of that crisis that has happened. But if that person felt at any given moment that their safety was threatened, they're not thinking. So that's one of the things that we want to cover today.
And it also kind of goes into what you were saying about fear there's some fears that are good,
Mhm.
and then there's some that are bad. And we need to touch on that because like, I know I grew up my whole life thinking like anytime I felt any form of fear or afraid or whatever, I'm like sinning, and there was this incident where my daughter had a really high fever and I had called Simi because I was freaking out because in the past she has had febrile seizure, and it was pretty traumatic. And so anytime she had a high fever, I was scared of it. And I'm like, I call Simi, I'm like, I shouldn't be sinning, or I shouldn't be fearful of this. And Simi said, well, hold on a second. Like, not all of this is all bad. Obviously, you wouldn't want these emotions of panic to overrule how you handle her. But at the same token, like, God honors and like desires life. And there is certain fear that he allows us to feel or
Preserve life.
yes, in order to do what's necessary to keep life continuing.
Yeah.
She's like, so I mean, like, you want to find that balanced place of, okay, like this is sometime adrenaline, you need that, especially there's been times my husband, his adrenaline kicks in and he catches the kid right as they're falling down the stairs. And you're like, thank God he created this response in us. Mm-hmm. Or whatever. And so it was so comforting for me when Simi spoke that into me, because I'm thinking like, it's like this cycle of like, something happens, fear kicks in, I handle it, and then I'm like, oh, now I got to repent. And it's like, hey, hello, like there's some good sides of this, and let's talk about what's healthy and what's not.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because the fear was actually given by God in those two, the first two this month and next month, that we're going to be talking about the safety and the limbic, the connection part and the emotional part. Those two are governed by fear. And it's not a bad fear. It's a good fear. It is the fear that says, I need to, a lion is coming. It's not like, hi, cute little cat, and then it eats you up. It's like, or the teddy bear. Oh, this teddy bear is huge, and then it eats you. So it's one of those things that it's a good fear. It helps you preserve your life. And then for attachment, it's the same thing. If your kids are not attached to you, they're not going to ask you, they're not going to cry for food.
Right.
And they die.
Yeah.
So we have to have fear in those two, so that in a healthy environment, that fear keeps us alive.
Yeah. But one of the things I was like, well, what's healthy? What's not healthy? Like, one of the things we had talked about, which we would know wouldn't be healthy, would be, what's that word when you're phobia of sickness all the time? You're always like, oh, like I've got
Germophobic.
Yeah, like germophobia, or any of those kind of like where you're constantly
OCD.
Yes, or like panicky. You wouldn't want to be in that like panicked state.
No.
Like, that's where you would have to check. Am I operating in my right mind, or am I operating out of complete survival? Like everybody's always going to die, because that's how you could kind of and add to what you think. But like, that's kind of how you would be able to measure, okay, is this healthy? Like, where's my trust in the Lord right now with this scenario? Right. Or am I constantly taking matters in my own hand? Like, I don't know, what else would you add to that?
Well, think about, that moment that there was a high fever.
Right.
If you had no fear that something could happen to her, because
right.
the fever is telling you there's something wrong.
Right.
So you like, oh, let me pay attention to this. So you don't go, lose all control, and then your poor child dies.
Right.
Because you're doing nothing.
It's like I'm watching her, giving her fluids, like co-laboring with the Lord in her healing process.
Yeah. You trust him and you pray for her, and you try to calm her, bring down the fever, not get rid of it. Fevers are good. They tell us, and they're actually that high temperature is burning something in our bodies, that it's a foreign object, that our body's saying we have to get rid of.
Kill something. Yeah.
Yeah. But, if it gets too high, which was the case of the first time,
we put ice packs on her head.
You don't have enough oxygen in your head, and you have a seizure.
Right.
So, so you don't want to go to that extreme. But at the same time, it's like, She's okay. She'll be fine.
Yep.
And then you do nothing
Yeah.
either. So.
Well, and one of the things that I noticed in myself in that particular scenario where I was operating, even still out of panic, was any sign of a sniffle, instant anxiety would just fill my whole body. It's like, Mary Catherine, a sniffle is normal, like it's okay. It's going to happen every now and again. I shouldn't be feeling nauseous every time my kids start to get sick. That's how I knew that fear became unhealthy,
Right.
and it became a stronghold for me. And we did the Jacob's ladder hand technique. And she, said the little, what was that company that you got the saying from? That Christ.
Oh, the Freedom in Christ.
Freedom in Christ. She said that saying over me. It was like, now how do you feel? And I was like, oh my gosh, it's like the emotions that I struggled with while this anxious event was happening were dormant. These emotions that would like take me like this were no longer affecting me. And then from that point forward, we even had an instance, with Isaac not long ago, and I had no panic. I was like calmly like, hey, you know what? I think we actually need to go to the ER. He needs a breathing treatment. And it wasn't this emotional. Normally I'd be shaking and nauseous. So anyways, this is just a real life example of how we kind of were able to navigate through, for me, what is a healthy fear and what is an unhealthy fear, and not to feel condemnation. Really, the biggest piece of freedom for me was when Simi said, like, Yeshua bled sweat, and like he struggled with life and had emotions, and and I was like, oh my gosh, you're right. Like,
yeah, he knew what he was going to go through. So yes, but let's be practical about that. I'll get more into if you want to do the screen share.
Oh, how do I screen share, by the way?
It is right there.
Oh,
there you go.
Host only.
Yes. There.
Okay.
Mine doesn't usually ask me that.
Are y'all seeing my?
Not yet. Click again. It was asking you to if you could.
Danielle, do you have a question, or do you want to help me? Oh, wait.
Well, I was just going to sort of say, just to sum up what you guys were saying, is that we have to find that balance on what is healthy. And when I am scared, not to go too overboard, but to find that balance and say like, okay, I need to do something, but what is my job in partnership with the Lord, instead of trying to control everything and just panic in those situations where I feel like I'm completely out of control.
Right. So if you want to find where you have it,
Oh, wait, hold on.
just
I switched you to the host, so it should
start over.
Okay, start there, and then you have to.
Oh, is this it?
I don't know. You have to open it down so that it's when you click on it, you'll see it.
Okay, so maybe I need to click desktop, or should I do this? Universal access.
I don't know what the universal.
Yeah, I don't know what that is either. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, we are not using my computer because it's only letting me use it with headphones, not.
It's not letting me click that.
Yeah, just get off there and open your PowerPoint. Okay, so now screen save. So now that it's open, share screen, and it should say.
It might be this.
I don't know. Open up.
Open. Security and privacy to grant access. I have to go to security and privacy to grant access.
Oh,
I'll do that really fast.
okay. Well, while she does that, so what we want to show you is how the brain has 3 different parts, and then how to do that, how to find that place. So while she's doing that, I'm going to answer what you're saying, Danielle. So what you're saying, first of all, to determine, in order for you to be able to know what is it that you need to do, or how to react, how to respond. You have to remember, the mind of Messiah is not in our survival mode, is not in our limbic, it's in our prefrontal cortex, our executive brain function, where we actually think and reason. So if you are in fear mode, if you're fighting, fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, then that means that you are not in a thinking mode. You are not able to access the mind of Messiah. So you need to calm yourself at that point. When one of the first things that you know that you have become, that you have come down all the way down to the, try the keynote. I think that's the one.
This one?
No, the next one here.
Oh.
Is that
It's making me
Oh
do
my
the acceptability again.
so what happens is, if you become physical, let's say something happens and you all of a sudden find yourself fighting in a way that your whole body's involved, you're stomping, you're pushing, you're slamming doors, you know you are in survival mode. And if you're in survival mode, you're not going to be able to think logically. So you have to learn at that point. It's like, okay, take a deep breath. Actually, I have it, but I don't know that we're going to be able to see. We're going to just have to share those with you, because her computer is not opening it up. So what you're going to do, one of the first things is what Dr. Bailey calls be a star. So think about a star. What do? They are in the red carpet and they're smiling and they're looking everywhere. They're just completely at peace and control. So what STAR stands for, the S is for smile. As soon as you do that, your brain kicks into the fear center, and it calms you down. So if you think about this, when you are very nervous, the first thing that you're going to notice is your mouth gets very dry. That means your cortisol level is really high and your adrenaline kicks in. So you get so dry that you need water, so you know that you're there. When you smile, this is a way to detox. I literally, if I don't feel like smiling because I'm so upset, I put a pen in my mouth and just keep my mouth, or do this to myself and just keep my mouth in a smile movement. And right now my mouth is watering. You automatically are going to get, your mouth will be watery because your hormones start moving and your brain calms down. So you smile is number one. And if somebody's angry at you and you smile, that is going to be in your benefit, because they cannot understand why are you smiling. That's just like, that's not the normal reaction of somebody that is screaming at you or attacking you. Okay, then the T is for take a deep breath. So you take a deep breath, you hold it, and you let it go slowly while you're still smiling. And the R is for rest. So take a deep breath and rest. Relax yourself. So the first thing is to calm yourself down and think these things through. One of the things that the executive brain function does is ask questions. Just like God said to Job, where were you when I did this, and the other?
It's like he was bringing him to his executive brain.
He's bringing him up. Asking questions is excellent to bring somebody. If you see somebody losing it, okay, so what happened?
Oh,
And then she is going to tell you what happened. And then, okay, what did you do next?
oh yeah.
Where is this? Where you get her to go and get something. You have her move away. Do that to yourself. Okay, why am I so upset? Just like he said, where were you when I did this? Why am I not trusted in you? What did David do? He asked his own soul, why are you downcast, oh my soul? So he's asking himself a question. He knows he needs to calm down. And then it's like, and in that scripture, he's saying, count your benefits, which I had a pastor that he said, when you are losing it, don't get hysterical, get historical. And what he meant by that is exactly what David did.
Oh, they missed the A and the R. So ST,
Oh.
they need AR. What was A again?
Okay, A is and, S, smile, T, take a deep breath, A for and, rest, relax. She just tried to do the best way she could to get a point across that to be a star, you can't lose it. You need to smile because the cameras are taking pictures of you. So unless you want to be like this in a picture, then you are going to smile. So what happens is he is asking himself, okay, so, and you see this in the Psalms all the time. David is going, oh, I'm a worm, I'm this, I'm that, and he remembers all the things he's gone through. But you, God, you this and you that, you the other, and then all of a sudden he's up in the mountain again. So it's kind of like we start asking ourselves questions. We go down to the valley and we know I'm a worm. Okay, I'm no good, but you were good at here. You were good there. You have helped me here. So if you can become historical, you can help yourself come out of, hysterical. Yeah, it's like
be historical, not hysterical. That's her phrase. She said it. She's like, we need to make a graphic, be historical, not hysterical. I love it because we're supposed to remember. How many times do you hear that? Like, remember the Sabbath, remember his words, count the blessings, right?
Yeah.
It's like that word remember in the Hebrew, isn't it? Zakar. It doesn't mean like, I'm just going to only think about it. It then turns into these actions that affect the way you walk.
Yeah. And you know what happens when you remember something bad? Don't you feel bad?
Oh gosh.
So
you fell in.
Yeah. You feel the emotion and you were sad.
Grit your teeth.
But
if
you think of, oh, remember how wonderful was your wedding?
Yes.
And you went here and your honeymoon, what did you do? And then you're thinking of, oh, all of a sudden your mouth is full of water again. And you're remembering all this great stuff that you did and how happy you were.
I once assigned this to myself, and I used to do like a young girls group with like 18-year-olds. And we literally kind of did this was before you, but this is how I would pull myself out of fits or any kind of funk that I would fall in. And I told the girls, I said, make a book, write a book. Like, think of all the books in the Bible, how that is what that was, a recounting of what God's done in those people's lives. I'm like, we need to make, not calling it a Bible, but it is like our own historical book of God moving in your life. And I know some people do that essentially with like prayer journals, but truly, like, not even just an answered prayer. I'm talking like any encounter. Say someone called you and was like, I had a dream about you. And then it confirms something that you felt an unction from God, or like you're driving and you see something on a billboard and it was the exact thing he's speaking to you. It's like, we talked about this. He is living and he is interacting with us, but sometimes we just get so busy in the flow of life, we forget that like he's always encountering us. I was telling Cindy the other day, I'm like, isn't it kind of sad that like it's been 2,000 years since we've had like a physical, tangible interaction with God? And the 400 years in Egypt, they had like long chunks of time. I'm like, come on, Jesus, like come here. But then we were like, wait, like actually, like, think about this. He interacted with you with this, or he interacted with me when he spoke this through this, or it's like, wait, he actually is very active with us. Just the other day, I woke up 3 nights in a row in the middle of the night, and I knew I was supposed to pray. And so I just was, but when I woke up, I was shaking. My body was physically shaking so bad that I was like, is my blood sugar so terrible?
Okay,
Time.
30 minutes.
Okay, I'm almost done.
You-
I was like, my blood sugar's so terrible that I'm shaking. I'm waking up shaking. Well, guess what? The next morning, that one that I was really, really shaking, I get on and I see, and I'm just praying in the spirit because I didn't know what to pray. I saw that there was a 7.8 magnitude
Mhm.
earthquake in Turkey.
Yeah.
I was like, God was physically shaking me. I didn't know what to pray and prayed in the spirit, and that was what had happened.
Mhm.
It's just wild. He
Yeah.
works in us
He does.
if our will would submit to
Yes.
him.
And listen to his voice.
Yes.
Okay, so we are going to cut here and then